like if you're to look at the all the different components of what you do, the as a business and pie chart it out. I know there's a lot of different things you're doing. You're working with brands and sponsors.
Mhm.
You're doing. I think you work with Mediavine. Do Airsubs. We interviewed the founder of Airsubs, which we'll link to that podcast in the show notes. What does that look like in terms of the pie chart? And curious kind of what your thoughts are as a business owner of how you want to adjust those, like more sponsor content, less sponsor content, more around like classes, less around classes. What are your thoughts around that?
So right now, my focus has been trying to do less sponsored content
Uh-huh.
and bring in more passive income with Mediavine through ads and
Yep.
SEO. So I have been for the past, I will say part of this has been I lost like the first like 25 recipes that I posted on my blog randomly. WordPress, we don't know what happened, but essentially
No.
my photos are gone. So the blog post is still there, but all of the photos are gone. So I've
Oh
been using
no.
this as like a lot of them I have the shoots for, so just like re-editing the photos, but
Sure.
I've been like reshooting old recipes, revamping old recipes, reworking them and like
Yep.
really going through and like optimizing the post, because before it was just like, this is
Right.
a
Right.
recipe that's like really good and here's the recipe.
Yeah.
So now I've been like going through and like, actually, now that I know about SEO and everything,
Yep.
optimizing this blog post. So my focus has been on getting, my blog to a
Hmm.
healthy position, essentially, to where I don't need to necessarily rely on sponsored posts or anything like that for an
Yep.
income. Because I'd say that's primarily where most of my income is coming from right now. I should say it's sponsored posts and then a tie between, the baking classes that I'm offering and
Yep.
ad income.
Yep.
So I'm trying to get that ad income a little bit larger on the pie
Yeah.
chart, so I can. I'm already picky with the brands I work with, but
Yep.
in a sense, I think having that increased traffic would allow me to, I guess I could say, be even more picky, and
Yep.
which would be nice, and I could
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
focus on putting out, recipes that I only want to do and not really have to think about like, oh, how can I incorporate this product that I'm
Yep.
probably already using anyways, but in a way that makes the product shine.
Yeah.
Um,
And there's just additional considerations when it's not just you thinking of something you want to do, but it's you thinking of something you want to do that will also work for the goal of the brand,
yeah,
which might be different than what your goal would be,
yeah,
which isn't necessarily a bad thing. It just creates complexity in content creation.
yes.
I see that you work with an agency. Can you tell me about what that has been like, and knowing that like you technically can review contracts, and a lot of
Yeah.
times that's why somebody would work with an agency is like review contracts, do negotiations, all things that you can do. What was your thinking with working with an agency, and what has that been like?
Yeah, so I am with Smith and Saint. I think I signed with them probably September of last year, maybe
Uh-huh.
October. And it's been great. I was a little apprehensive at first, only because not because of them, but just I had the mindset, and I had actually talked to a friend maybe a week before Smith and Saint reached out, and we were just like, oh, I don't think we'll ever get an agent. Like I
Sure.
was like, I like the negotiation side, and like, I can handle, XYZ. And then maybe literally a week later, both of us signed with the same agency. But it has been great. I will say so it's primarily it's two sisters that started it. And
Yep.
why I really liked them when I first like met them was because they're kind of the same story as me. They are both attorneys that have now left kind of the practice of law. So they're
Yep.
kind of, same boat that I was in. I was still using what I learned in law school for, contracts, negotiations and stuff.
Yep.
But I was getting at when they had reached out, it was, started, quarter three, getting ready for quarter four. And I was starting to spend more time on the computer answering emails back and forth with
Yeah.
brands than I was like in the kitchen or getting to like do anything that I enjoyed doing. Like I wasn't taking photos or anything like that. I just felt like I was like on the computer 3 out of the 5 days of the week that I was
Yeah.
working.
Yep.
So I was like, you know what, let's try this out and see, what happens. And it's been great. I wish I would have done it sooner.
Yeah. Yeah.
They handled all of that for me. So now I'd say traditionally now brands are reaching out to them directly.
Yep.
Any brands that like I might have worked with in the past or that contact me directly, I just like loop in my manager and we kind of like, tag team and do everything together. But
Uh-huh.
we're like, in constant contact through text and everything. And she just kind of like handles literally everything dealing with working with brands. So like she has, she'll do all of the Google Calendar invites and the
Nice.
deadlines, all of the negotiations. She handles all of the contract stuff. I basically don't get involved with a brand until the contract is signed and I'm like pitching recipe ideas and we're like going
Yeah.
going over that stuff. So it's given me a lot of time to like focus on other things because as you
Uh-huh.
know, running a business, there are
Yeah.
many things to focus on. So
Yeah.
it's truly freed up a lot of my time and I could not be happier.
Yeah. We've been using this kind of business framework called EOS, and they have all of these different kind of um, tools, so to speak. But one of them is called GWC, and it's kind of a analysis that you do for any of the functions of your role. So, like a function of your role in this example would be negotiation and brand relationship. And GWC stands for gets it, wants it, capacity to do it. And so in that exercise, like you would get it, right? You're an attorney, you can do negotiations, you know it, wants to do it. Maybe like it sounds like you're like, hey, this is kind of fun. I
Mhm.
like doing it. It's something I enjoy. Capacity to do it? No. Like you just
Yeah,
don't have the time to do it. So in the GWC test, you'd say, well, I just don't have the capacity to do this. So then what? Well, you delegate that to somebody else and you find
exactly.
somebody who can do that really well. And it's such a freeing moment. I remember this feeling when I was processing all of the invoices that would come in. So any contractor, vendor that we would work with, they would just email me and then I'd go and I'd process that invoice. And I was like, it only takes like 5 minutes for me to do that. But I remember when we hired somebody and one of the roles that we assigned to them was like processing invoices. I trained her in on it. And it's a really freeing moment when you can get a message in your inbox, an email in your inbox, or a message that's a DM, and you can just forward that. And
Yeah,
it's like that's the amount of work that you need to do is like route it to the person who needs to see it.
yeah.
And I think the more that your responsibilities increase, the more that you're having to figure out who you're going to route stuff to within your team.
Mhm.
And it sounds like that was a big win for you. Do you have other thoughts on what those roles will be in the future? Are you thinking about working with other people? What's the next, you know, area that you're going to look to bring somebody in to help with, whether kind of an agency in like this or a team member? Any thoughts around that?
Yeah, so I two positions immediately top of my head. One is I'm going to eventually hire someone out to do everything relating to Facebook and Pinterest because I just hate
Sure.
spending time on
Yeah.
those two platforms.
Yep.
And I just feel as though, especially with Pinterest, that it's just so viable
Uh-huh.
for my business, and
Yeah.
it does out of all of the social media platforms, I would say, at least for me, it is Pinterest is the
Hmm.
highest traffic driver. So
Hmm.
I know it's something that I should put more effort into it than I do, and I just
Sure.
don't have
Yeah.
the capacity to do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is a big one, and then the other one, and this was a plan that I was wanting to do even while I was before I was taking Mike Bake's NYC full time, and then COVID hit and I could not. It was impossible at that point. But I do want to bring on a second person in person, so like someone that's in New York
Yep.
City, to help when I have like heavy shoot days. So like
Yeah. Yeah.
this week, for instance, I have I think 5 deadlines this week. So I have 5 photo shoots or video
Right.
shoots that I have to do, and it's just like to have an extra set of hands, whether it's like helping with hands in the video, helping with stuff
Yep.
in the kitchen, preparing stuff, things of that nature.
Yep.
It's I know it'll help me because I obviously my like I said,
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
passion is the photography side of things. It would make things my process so
Yeah.
much easier.
And there's something to be said about really looking hard at like what are the things that don't matter if I do them.
Hmm.
And one of those is like scheduling stuff on Pinterest. Does
Yeah,
it matter if you do the photography? Probably. Like people can probably get to know your style, your feel. Does it matter if you do the writing? Probably. Like at this point, if it's you and it's a personal brand,
Yeah.
does it matter if, you are prepping the recipe and like measuring stuff out? Probably not.
No.
Like, and it's interesting to think about what are the things that are most cost effective to hire and also least impactful for what you're doing in terms of like you being the one to do it,
Yeah.
which is always kind of a fun game to play to kind of analyze that, which it sounds like you've kind of pinpointed those two. Last thing I'm curious to hear you talk a little bit about is Airsubs. So we touched on that briefly, but what is that like to do an Airsubs class? How do you get people to sign up? Is it primarily your blog? Is it Instagram? Is it email? And then what are just logistically, how do you pull it off?
Yeah, so I Airsubs has been it's been very interesting. I am enjoying it.
Yeah.
I was a little unsure of how it was going to go, but um, I've been offering 3 classes a month,
Hmm.
and they've traditionally been on weekends. I'm moving away from that starting next
Hmm.
month, because I've had people reach out asking for like, oh, can we do like a Friday night class or something
Sure.
like that. But yeah, I do 3 classes a month, and it's varied between recipes that are on my blog, recipes that are not on my blog that were in my first cookbook, or just recipes that like, there's been, I think 2 classes where it's a recipe that is like, it was only available for that class. It's not
Yep.
anywhere. And I've been promoting it on Instagram primarily, and then also my email list. I am ashamed to say that I've been offering classes for probably like 5 months now and still don't have any information about it on my website. There's a
Sure.
page in the works that's just in draft
Yeah.
mode. I just haven't
There's
published
always something that, though. Like you can always
it.
be doing more.
Yeah, I'm just like, people will like DM me, and I'm like, I need to work on this page so I could just send them the link that'll have
Yeah.
all the information.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just one of those things that's just like, it's on the list, I just haven't finished
Yeah.
it or gotten to
Yeah.
it. But yeah, so primarily my email list. Every time I offer, every time next month's classes are open for registration, I will post on Instagram a carousel post with the 3 images of what we're making, and then I'll send out to my email list, as well, with links to sign up for each class. But yeah, it's been great. Airsubs handles like everything essentially. I just, on my end, I input, the class information, the price of the
Yep.
class, the time, things like that, and then I upload a PDF that I create that has, an equipment list, the ingredient list, and then the full recipe.
Hmm.
And then when people sign up, Airsubs handles sending out, all of that information. They send out the Zoom link. And so really all I have to do is, once I pick the date and time, on that date and time, just remember to start the Zoom
Hmm.
meeting on my laptop, and everyone is there. And I have it set up to where Airsubs will automatically upload the recording. So I record all of the
Cool.
classes and save them to my cloud, and Airsubs will automatically upload it to their website. So people, if they can't make it to class, can watch the replay. If you did make it to class, they can watch the replay as well.
Yep.
And then those classes are also available like for on-demand purchase. So all of the past classes that I've done, people could like, purchase it and watch it right then and there. So they're not
Uh-huh.
interacting in real time. They can't really ask the questions like you could if you were there, but they at least get, I guess, the nature of being in class, and
Right.
they hear the questions that other people ask, and things of that nature. And I kind of walk through, everything the recipe has to offer, and the technical sides of baking
Yeah.
and things like that.